Chapter 36. We hurried, but Goat Hill was a steep climb, so it was not till mid-afternoon that we reached the top. Directly across the bay was Angel Island. To the north of us was Alcatraces, or Pelican Island, the desolate place I'd seen when I first came into the bay. 2 miles from San Francisco it sat like a guard before the Golden Gate. As for the Golden Gate, a great gray fog bank was blocking the way, like a cotton cork stuffed in the neck of a narrow bottle. To the east was the expanse of the Great Bay. That was open. We sat down, and Thad put the telescope to his eyes. It took him a moment before he said, "The Yankee Sword is right there. See? Sails furled, anchored, just beyond Rotten Row. Name in yellow letters on her stern. They're loading her." Sam looked. Then he said, "Unless that fog bank holds her back, the Yankee Sword will be leaving soon. We better decide fast what we're doing." I took the telescope and studied the ship. Being a brig, the Yankee Sword was not so large, with only 2 masts. The forward mast was taller than the main mast. Attached to that rear mast was a gaff that held a square sail over the stern. At her bow was a sprit, nearly the length of the deck, that extended forward over the water. Since San Francisco had few loading docks extending into the bay, at least not as far out as the Yankee Sword was anchored, lighters were bringing out her cargo. As we watched, passing the telescope among us, there were decreasing numbers of lighters, suggesting that the loading was a fair way to being completed. Sam, after looking again, said, "Not that many men on her." I took back the telescope, hoping to catch sight of Jacob, but it didn't matter that I couldn't see him. By then I was convinced he was there. We sat in silence. I didn't know what to do. It was Thad who said, "I have an idea." "Say it." "All those lighters loading her, right?" "What about them?" said Sam. "We could get hold of one," Thad went on. "Go on out the Yankee Sword, climb on board, and look around for your brother." "In daylight?" said Sam. "Thad said they're so busy getting ready to leave they might not notice us." Sam shook his head. 3 kids wandering around the ship, poking about. They'd see us soon enough, too risky. To which I added, "And they might catch us, keep us, or worse." Thad had no reply. After a moment I said, "How about going to her tonight? It'll be dark. The fog might be thicker, too." Sam said, "They're sure to have a watch posted, and safety lights. If they're keeping a lookout, there we'd be in a dinky rowboat. Won't matter it being dark, they'd see us for sure." "We can't wait any longer," I said. "She's scheduled to leave tomorrow." There was some silence before Thad said, "Then I'm betting the best chance we have is now." I said, "To do what?" Thad said, "Have a closer look." "How?" "Grab a boat and go on out there." I scrambled to my feet. "Come on," I said. "We need to." It took us a while to get off the hill, but once we did, we went right to the cove, fetched up a rowboat, and pushed it into the water. I took a place in the bow, telescope in hand. Thad was on the stern seat. Sam began to row. No one spoke as we worked our way through the Rotten Row hulks. It took a while, but once we broke through into the bay, I looked to where the Yankee Sword was, only to blink at what I was not seeing. The ship wasn't there. At first I thought I wasn't looking in the right direction. I even stood up and shaded my eyes. No question. The Yankee Sword was not where we had last seen her. "She's gone!" I cried. After a moment Thad pointed and said, "No, there she is, in deeper water." "Is she moving?" Sam used the telescope. "No," he said. Thad turned to Sam. "What's she doing?" Sam continued studying her. "Looks like she finished loading. The sails are down and she's anchored, so she's staying away from shore, not going anywhere. Maybe waiting for the fog to clear from the gate and for the tides to run right. Anyway, she won't be leaving, not yet." "I'm guessing," said Thad, "once all is good she'll glide right on out." With our rowboat gently rocking, we kept watching the Yankee Sword in silence. "If we go after her in this boat," said Thad, "we'll be as obvious as turtles in a washtub." "And," said Sam, "if they get suspicious, they might pull anchor and race off. No way could we catch her in the bay with this." He patted the gunwales of our little boat. "But we can't do nothing," I cried. Though no one disagreed, no one suggested anything. Our rowboat began to drift while we continued to stare at the brig. It was Thad who said, "Tori, remember when we first went looking round Rotten Row? That ketch we searched?" "What about her?" "Sign on her said help yourself." "I don't know what you're saying." "Remember, she looked ready to sail. We could get on her, go after the Yankee Sword in her." He turned to Sam. "Could you sail a small ketch?" "Reckon." I said if the Yankee Sword moved away, could a small boat like that go after her? "Long as she stayed in the bay," said Sam, "but not if she gets to the ocean." Thad said they might not notice a small boat. Then he added, "much." The boys looked to me. I said, "Let's go and use her." We headed back to Rotten Row. As both Thad and I recalled, the ketch was not deeply embedded midst the Rotten Row fleet, but somewhere along its outer edges. Even so, it took a while before we found her. After all the big ships we had been on, she seemed smaller than I recalled, maybe 30 feet in length, with one main mast, plus the modest mizzen mast near the stern. The signs, "Off for riches, help yourself," were still there. When we pulled close, I noticed her name. Sadie Rose, somebody's sweetheart or wife. We drew alongside, tied the rowboat to a loose line so it wouldn't drift off, and scrambled on board. The full rig of sails, flying jib, staysail, forestaysail, mainsail, and mizzen, remained hanging from the mast. Lines seemed to be where they were supposed to be, albeit tangled. Strewn about were the tools I'd noticed before. Sam stood amidships and with a seaman's eye appraised her. "Can you sail her?" I asked. "Think so." Thus it was that Sam became captain of the Sadie Rose, or Captain, as Thad called him with a sharp salute. I shall not bore you with all Sam's ship language. His commands, which in any case he often had to translate for my landlubber's ears, as much as Señor Rosales translated Spanish. Enough to say, Sam put Thad and me to work. As quick as possible the deck had been cleared, the mainsail, jib, and mizzen hauled. "What about our rowboat?" I asked. "Tie her to our stern," said Sam. "We might need her, just in case. Push her oars under the seat." That done, it took the three of us to work the ketch's anchor up from where it lay, embedded in bottom mud, where its twin flukes like hooks held fast. I was reminded of the Rhode Island symbol, an anchor. Stay in place. Ancora. Hope. Hope was what I needed. With the anchor freed and aboard, Sam turned the Sadie Rose downwind and away from Rotten Row. Out in the bay, the choppy waters caught at our low bow and sent wet and shivery cold salt spray over us. Now and again light rain also sprinkled. But we were moving sprightly, which gave me a sense that we really were going somewhere. That made me warm. It did require some time for Sam to gain a feel, as he put it, for the ketch, and for Thad and me to understand his orders so we could follow them. In good time, however, we were sailing about the bay with ease, as all three of us worked like old jacks. Our rowboat bobbed behind. Sam maneuvered the Sadie Rose so that while we kept our distance from the Yankee Sword, we were able to keep our eyes on her. As Sam explained, he didn't want her crew to have any suspicions as to who we were or why we were out there. Besides, Señor Rosales' telescope allowed us to be watchful while keeping our distance. I was becoming excited, filled with the sense that we were truly drawing closer to Jacob. All the while the Yankee Sword remained motionless, though now and again I saw people move about her deck. I need hardly say that I saw nothing of Jacob. As we tacked back and forth, we would turn toward the Golden Gate. That fog bank had only crept farther into the bay. It had also become thicker, darker too, like a thundercloud. Let me acknowledge, however, that though we were in the bay and keeping our eyes on the brig, we had yet to form a plan as to how to rescue Jacob. It was as if we were waiting for the Yankee Sword to tell us what to do. It was when we darted in close and Thad was studying her with his telescope that he called, "Come about." Sam shifted the tiller hard. "What is it?" I asked. Someone was standing at our bow. I could have sworn he was looking at us. "What's he look like?" Thad looked again. "White hair." I said, "Captain Littlefield." "He'll know about us then," said Sam, and continued to tack away from the Yankee Sword. "Do we have to worry?" I asked. "We're too far away," said Thad. "I'm not so sure," said Sam. By late afternoon, with sunlight fast diminishing, the Yankee Sword had hung lights forward and aft. Another light dangled from a midship spar. What did those lights mean? I asked Sam, who had kept us at a distance. Safety lights, he explained. Tells me she's not going anywhere. Not tonight. Probably hoping that the fog in the gate lifts so they can leave early morning. We continued to sail back and forth, in no particular direction, but always keeping the Yankee Sword in view. Twilight brought deeper murk. What's more, the shadowy fog in the gate was flowing into the bay, spreading like a balloon slowly swelling bigger. Sam said, "It's going to get too dark for us out here. If we keep sailing about, someone on that ship is bound to get suspicious." "But we have to keep watching her," I said. For a moment no one spoke. Thad said, "What about Alcatrazes, that island? Sits before the gate. If we can get on it, we can keep an eye on the ship. We have the telescope." "Will they notice us?" I asked Sam. "Not likely." Thad added, "And if she tries to run for the gate, she'll have to pass right by us." I said, "But if she did run by, we still don't know how we'll get Jacob." Thad said, "We'll think of something then." "Is anybody on the island?" I asked. "Rocks and birds," said Sam, adding, "Won't be pleasant sitting there." Then he added further, "Still, better than sailing about. And if we sit high up, we'll be able to see the Yankee Sword a whole lot better than from here." He patted the gunwales. I said, "Then we should do it." I looked at Thad. "Yeah?" I turned to Sam. He responded by blowing out his cheeks as if playing his bugle, let go a puff of air, and then shifted the tiller. All he needed to do by way of saying yes. The boom swung about, the ketch heeled. As the twilight dimmed and the fog grew murkier, the Sadie rose, headed for the Isle of Alcatrazes.